Welcome to Center of Light Foundation. Yanava. Big things are afoot. Actually, they're a foot long. Tonight, we're going to be speaking about dimensions and dimensions. Dimensions as in breadth, width, height, space. Three-dimensional space. But we're also going to be speaking about spiritual levels. Breath. To shift us into a space. Dimensions. Welcome to Center of Light. Be right back. Welcome to Center of Light Foundation. Everything's backwards. It's good to see you tonight on Center of Light. We'll do a couple things and get settled in. Welcome, everyone. As I was saying just a little bit ago, lots of things are on the horizon for Center of Light. What would that be? You, me, we, thee. The fire is growing. Are you burning holy hell fire? Are you burning in the fires of purification? Simple question. I say that for me. I need to hear myself say that. Hello, everyone. I love acknowledging everyone. It is my heart. It's the sweet spot. Louis Mati, Rena, Soma, Dr. Katie Kamerage, Ted, Adana, Shauna. Hello, Shauna. Call up my friend, our friend, Shauna. Call up Jason. Get him on the horn. So lots of things are happening for Center of Light. Something recently manifested that I'm really grateful for. Dr. Katie Kamara and I. We have other things in the works. Lots of ideas. But we're looking for the sweet spot, and I'm going to find it. Dr. Katie Kamara is going to find it. We're all going to find it with a little help from my friends. I get by, a little help from my friends. Do you need anybody? I want somebody to love. I love having fun. It is the requisite of my life. Center of Light, as I said before we get down to the thick of this dynamite presentation. Hello, Danage. Melinda. I got two screens, so forgive me. I just posted in the forums. Center of Light is getting very well recognized by other people. Please jump on board. Donate to Center of Light how you can. Monetarily, sharing, caring, praying, however you do it. It's our platform. I'm just a guy that sits in this chair for now. Thank you. Tonight is Center of Light breath, as in with. Stretch that sucker open. Stretch it open. Hold it open. Hold open the gate. How do we do that? I'll show you. I will. But breath, be like bread. I didn't know that. It just hit me. What is bread? Manna. It's food. It's the scriptural food. And probably most scripture, they talk about breaking bread or eating bread. The bread of life. Life bread. So the breath, Center of Light breath tonight is not breath as in, it's breath as in with. And it's B-R-E-A-D, bread, T-H, breath. The sweet spot. What is the sweet spot? You can call it your erogenous zone. It's applicable. It's a sweet spot. Some call it another spot, G-spot. And some say, that's the spot. Well, that's the spot I'm talking about. On many different levels. And all those dimensions. The breadth, the width, the height, the depth. These are powerful words. Powerful ideas to entertain, to postulate. I'm a wordsmith. I love words. When we understand, it's not just for speaking so someone says, oh, I understand what you're saying. It is that, but it's so much more. More in breadth, width, height. And when we take breath, we get breadth, width, height. All right. Welcome, everyone. You're loved beyond measure. Power. Information is power. When you're standing in an upright formation, you are in a formation. Your information, such as being imparted here and other platforms that you visit frequent, information is power. Creates breakthroughs in our life. Creates connection to eternity, which is love itself. It's important you stay internally referenced. 4 things you can never change. You exist. All is the one. One is the all. What you put out, you get back. The only thing that never changes is change. Here's a meme I got on the stream today. The spiritual world, the world that most of us can't see until we get into breadth, width, and height by using breath to expand into these dimensions, connects us to an unlimited, enormous consciousness with no edges. There's no edges. It has no edges. Infinity. It's eternal. No boundaries and no limits to what it can create. Dear Lord, I can prove to you eternity is real. Think about the edge of the universe. If there's an edge, contemplate that now. Okay, the universe is 500 billion light years across, whatever. However, just pick a number. And say, well, that's got to be the edge. So we're going to throw a monkey wrench in that monkey mind. What lies beyond the outermost edge? And Ted says, I feel very wavy, and I'm in the flow today. I feel the vibrations. I'm assuming that's what he meant as a typo. Uh-oh. So there is no edge to anything. In fact, you don't have an edge. Notice every part of your body has a curvature to it somehow. Nothing is straight and second plane, two-dimensional. Everything about you is multi-dimensional. Your very existence here, on a rock, spinning around a solar star, hurling, the whole thing is moving through space, and this spiral, moving through dimension after dimension after dimension after dimension. However, it's moving at what, 15,000 light years per second, whatever the astronomical, ridiculous number it is. And stop entertaining the flat earth. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. There's no flat earth. The very nature of everything is round. You are round. You may look bipedal, but you are round because your bipedal beingness is not who you are in the first place. You are here in the center. Outward in all directions. Your energy field goes outward in all directions. You have to do nothing to have this happen. It's just the natural play of energy. Everything is circular. Everything is round. A soap bubble is the most energy efficient shape for this dimension. It's perfect. There's no stress. There's no strain. Well, there's some surface tension, if you will. But use the soap bubble itself. Well, there's a wall. What lies beyond the wall? More empty space? Well, then go ahead and pop the bubble. There's going to be no wall whatsoever. Popping that bubble is no different than when we pop our own bubble, our bubble of trouble. It's about dimension. The person you were 5 minutes ago, I must mention, by you and I sitting here having this fun, learning, either of us are not the same being. We've shifted dimensions. You're shifting now. And you're shifting now. And you're shifting now. You may not think that you're shifting, but remember, you are on a planetary body hurling through space and a solar system. The galaxies are rotating, and God is breathing Soham in and out. So is the in-breath of God, and Ham is the out-breath of God. You want to talk about breadth, width, and height, and depth? 4 dimensions now. We can keep going. I feel like I need to play a song. I'm going to play a song. I'm going to come up with something different. Other than I love to be one. I'm feeling all giddy and stuff. Welcome everyone to Center of Light. Please share this. Why not? Also, notify me when Keith goes live. The ellipsis at the top, the 3 dots for those who are not so learned in the English vernaculage. Let's go to Lavender Soul, Feel. The first song Bernard and I wrote all those years ago. Feel. Feel, not think. Don't think. Thinking's great. It's a gift. But when you lean on it too heavy, it likes to power trip. They don't make you a slave. Feel.
To me as I sing this song for you. The message that I'm bringing is one of hope and truth. Inside, that's where the love lies. Feel. message that I bring is wrong. And in your heart, that's where you'll find the truth. Look inside, that's where the love lies. Listen to me.
Welcome back to Center of Light. Melinda says, I don't know who she was talking to. She's always starting trouble. Always. Melinda's always starting trouble. She said, Keith, I'm assuming, at 11 minutes, I don't know why she said 11, but she wants a crystal ball reading. She wants me to give us a crystal ball reading. Here's the reading. Our future is so bright, we're going to have to wear shades. Welcome back to Center of Light. Tonight is Center of Light Breath. B-R-E-A-D-T-H, as in with, but breath, with height, dimensional space. We're also going to be speaking about breath. To create space, or a space to shift into, which will give us girth, width, breadth, spiritual height. We will heighten our abilities. And we loft, we lift, we go. Where are we going? Nowhere, except here. You're still going to stay in your chair, or in your bed, or wherever it is you're going to be on the toilet. You're still going to be there. What's going to happen, what is happening to all of us, is you're not going to have to get into an automobile to travel, really, spiritual liberation. You see, just because you're not astral traveling as you expand your spiritual functions, your Jesus functions, your Buddha functions, your love functions, everything that means anything at all ever can possibly, and it's called bliss. We've all been missing it. Here it is. You can sit in your space and shift dimension. I did mention that. Just shift. How do you don't do anything? Just shift. Your intent to shift shifts you. Shift happens. That's it. When you want to go to another dimension, right now you're in a dimension of, let's say, your bedroom. Somebody got to go potty. You go potty. You go to another space in your house, to another dimension, another room, another place entirely. And you sit on the toilet. You shake your stuff when you're done. You shift the dimensions. You see, everything is always shifting. It's always changing. The only thing that will never change is change. And it's constant, forever. And when you really get good at this spiritual stuff, you can see the infinite, constant change. And the privilege is to be the anchored for everyone to see things fold and unfold, live and die, be and not be. Because you're the permanent one. Well, everything else changes. That is the key to everything. Let me say that again. In fact, that is probably one of the finer truths I've ever dreamed up in this head. The goal, spiritually, is to be the anchored one peacefully while everything around us changes. Because that is the truth. God is anchored. God is the it. In fact, God is the unchanging changer itself. But he doesn't budge. It's always constant. It's always eternal. It is breadth. It is width. It is height. It is depth. And at the depth of your being, when we breathe, because when you get excited or nervous or in panic, it's all breath. And all of breathing takes us to different breaths, widths, and heights and depths. You ask a Buddhist monk who is a master of breath. God is breath. God breathed life into man. We don't breathe, we don't live. So just by your breath alone, God is in you existing. Think about that. Really chew on that stick of spiritual dynamite gum. Every time you take a breath, God is breathing your body. That's how near and dear it is to you. Without God, you don't breathe your body. He's not using some freaking Bluetooth remote control system saying, okay, go breathe somewhere. It's near. It's breath. B-R-E-A-D-T-H and breath. And a Buddhist monk will tell you to shift space, dimension. He may do an in through the mouth, out through the nose. In through the nose, out through the mouth. He may do in one nostril, out the other, in this nostril, out the other. And all these combinations of breath, spiritually, consciously using it, or unconsciously because one is in a state of panic, depression, whatever the situation may be, all of these breath techniques, conscious or unconscious, will shift you into a dimension of one of absolute joy, bliss, nirvana, peace, abundance, all this icing on the cake. Tonight is sweet spot. You can have your cake and eat it too. But I suggest you bring a really good toothbrush and your favorite toothpaste, because all of that sweet sugar on your divine tooth can leave you with a cavity. But we have to fall into the cavity. To the cavity, this cavern, so I'm assuming cav in any form, cavity, cavern, cave, or words, etymology-wise, that's the right word, cav, C-A-V has to do with hole, a hole, empty space. So there's a hole in the cave, but also a hole. I'm whole. And in that wholeness is the empty space. It's all about space, breadth, width, height, and depth. So now we're going to move on to the video segment. Video for me, but not for you. I can't do the video. There's some encodings in there, and I will get myself in some social media copyright trouble. I am not stealing someone's work. I understand they make a living like I do, like we do. I'm sharing. It's a business card. Hello, everyone. Check out Jason Silva. His presentation may not seem like it's in accordance or in alignment with such of like breath, as in a dimension of width, the sweet spot. Listen closely. You hear it. He is on fire. In fact, the relationship is he is in the breath, not only the breathing breath, he is in the width, the breath, the width and the height. You can hear it. The boy is illuminated. He is on fire. Dear Lord, somebody go get some water and quench his thirst. Jason Silva. Check him out.
So, my name is Jason Silva. I am the creator of Shots of Awe, which hopefully some of you guys have seen. I am also the host of Brain Games on the National Geographic Channel, as well as the show Origins. But where does this all start for me? What is the origin story? Where does the inspiration for my work come from? Where does the agitation for my work come from? Where does the fire in the belly that compels me to so forcefully express myself all the time come from? And the truth of the matter is, it comes from existential angst. Yeah. It comes from just a feeling of sometimes paralyzing fear, occasional dread, wanting to make sense of things, wondering what it's all about, wondering why we're here, wondering what our purpose is in the cosmos. It comes from all of these things. That and 1,000 other neurotic obsessions, I assure you. I remember reading a book by Ernest Becker, Pulitzer Prize-winning book from 1974 called The Denial of Death. And just to give you a pop culture reference for that book, in the movie Annie Hall, it is the book that Woody Allen makes reference to in the bookstore when he wants to buy this book for her. And he says, you have to read this book. It describes my view of the human condition. This book changed my life. This book basically made this case about the human condition. It distilled the human conundrum. It explained the mystery of our being and the mystery of our angst. It was extremely well articulated in a documentary about Ernest Becker's work called Flight from Death, The Quest for Immortality. And the documentary began like this, and it really says it all. To have emerged from nothing, to have a name, consciousness of self, deep inner feeling, an excruciating inner yearning for life and self-expression. And with all this, yet to die. Human beings find themselves in quite the predicament, right? We have the mental capacity to ponder the infinite, seemingly capable of anything. Yet we're housed in these heart-pumping, breath-gasping, decaying bodies, right? Simultaneously gods and worms. Human beings exist at the interplay between the finite and the infinite. The philosopher Tolstoy said, man cannot live if he doesn't find a way to bridge the finite with the infinite. College professor named Sheldon Solomon, also featured in the Ernest Becker documentary, said, the explicit awareness that you're a breathing piece of defecating meat destined to die, and ultimately no more significant than a lizard or a potato, is not especially uplifting. I mean, I memorized that line because I was like, holy shit, that sums it up. People ask me why I have this recall for quotes that resonate. It's because when a quote explains something that I have felt more viscerally and artfully than I could have ever done it, I have to retain that quote. I have to own that line. That line is now part of who I am. That line, that quote, that idea now explains how I see the world. And there is reassurance in finding somebody who sees things the way that you do. It makes you feel less alone. It doesn't absolve us of our angst and the mortal coil, but at least it makes us feel like we're all in it together. Others understand. There is consensus that we are in a unique position. We've committed no crime, yet we are afflicted with a death sentence. Now, I've had my share of panic attacks in my life, occasionally from smoking too much pot, but the point being, I've entertained the abyss. I've lost sleep thinking about the end. I worry about people I love getting older. I worry about my parents one day succumbing to mortality. And I am not at peace with this idea. I do not ascribe to any philosophy that accepts death. In fact, as Alan Harrington beautifully wrote in The Immortalist, any philosophy that accepts death must itself be considered dead, its questions meaningless, its consolations worn out. Now, I hope that eventually I discover some philosophy that absolves me from this angst. But at the moment, I love so intensely, I feel so deeply, and I am so attached to the people in my life that I love. I am so attached to having self-awareness, to probing the mysteries of being. I am, in the words of Carl Sagan, a wonder junkie. And I just refuse to surrender that capacity to the forces of entropy, aging, and death. That's where it starts for me. This desire for self-expression, according to Ernest Becker, is one of the 3 solutions to the problem of death. And I'm sorry to start the night with this existential bummer, which, by the way, is the most popular video I've ever done. But the existential bummer is that we are uniquely aware, right? And so Ernest Becker maps out 3 ways in which human beings have dealt with the unique awareness of our mortality. We are the only being in the animal kingdom that can contemplate its own death. So it's not just that we're running away from immediate predators, but that even if everything's awesome, we lose sleep over the fact that one day we will die. One day the sun will eclipse and burn the earth. One day it's all gonna end. I mean, that's a bummer and a half as far as I'm concerned. So, how do human beings do this, right? We construct these symbolic systems and we invest ourselves in these systems. We create virtual realities and we invest ourselves in these virtual realities. Or even more appropriately, these real virtualities, because once you commit to these, they become real. They become the lenses through which you see the world. And these reality tunnels, these cultural operating systems, endow our lives with maps of meaning. They give us a directionality. They show the way, right? The first and most impactful solution to the death problem was the virtual reality known as religion. It absolves us of our fear because guess what? You'll live forever in the kingdom of God. Don't worry about this mortality thing. You're set. Sounds great. Sounds amazing. However, if you're a questioning mind that keeps asking questions of your rabbi or your priest, eventually you get kicked out of Sunday school or whatever it may be. And then you turn to maybe science or whatever. The point is, our increasingly secular society finds no alleviation of our ills in religion anymore. So the first solution to the problem of death for many no longer works. The second solution to the problem of death is romantic love. the deification of the other. She's like the wind. She's my salvation. She is the sun. It is every pop song that's ever been written. It is every romantic movie we've ever watched. I can tell you every girl I've ever been in love with fits the archetype from some goddess of cinema that I had a crush on growing up. The iconography of our youth, the images, the album covers, these things become our maps of meaning. When I find the one, she will save me from it all. By deifying, by putting lovers on pedestals, turning them into gods, we have a chance of being saved by rubbing up against them in a moment of extaculation. But guess what? As much as I continue to be a romantic, Ernest Becker reminds us soberly, no relationship can bear the burden of godhood. Ultimately, our gods will reveal their clay feet. Ouch. The cracks in our gods and goddesses are reflections that remind us of our own cracks, and it's like, fuck. What now? The third solution to the problem of death, perhaps the most interesting one, the creative solution to the problem of death, right? We talked about the religious solution. We talked about the romantic solution. The next one is the creative solution to the problem of death. What can we build? What can we do? What can we create together to overcome, to transcend, to redefine our boundaries, to expand the perimeters of the possible, to overcome our limits, to put things together in a certain way in which things become transcendent? The creative solution to the problem of death is our artistry, our poetry, our instruments, our music, our songs, our films, our rocket ships and satellites and iPhones, miracles of engineering in which we engender our own divinity increasingly and forcefully. My passion for technology comes from an abiding belief that technology is the embodiment of human creativity in the world. Technology is the literalization of human imagination in the world. Technology becomes the human mind turned inside out. And as Kevin Kelly from Wired magazine said, imagine how impoverished the world would be if we didn't invent the technology of the oil painting in time for Van Gogh, or the technology of the musical instrument in time for Beethoven and Mozart, or the technology of the written word in time for Shakespeare. These tools and technologies become conduits for new forms of human creativity, new forms of human flourishing that for a moment at least allow us to transcend our animality and become our triumph over death. This is my abiding belief in human creativity, the most metaphysical of metaphysical qualities, perhaps and increasingly allowing us to modify our own evolution. I give a lot of lectures around the world about disruptive technologies. People in Silicon Valley are getting wet with the idea of the singularity. Billionaires can taste technologically mediated immortality. This stuff is within our grasp. We don't just build rocket ships that take us to other planets. We don't just build cell phones in which we warp space and time in a form of technologically mediated telepathy where minds can communicate with each other across oceans of sky. We don't just do this. These exponential technologies, which have shrunk supercomputers the size of buildings into devices in our pockets, are now spilling over into biotechnology, which means mastering the information processes of our biology, because it turns out that we are made of code. That biology is language, is software that writes its own hardware. We are made of language. We are linguistic all the way down. We are alphabetic beings. And now we're learning to reprogram that language. Our existential angst, our refusal to accept our fate is now giving us the tools to rewrite the very code of life, to change the terms we didn't sign up for. We'll create new software apps for biology and say, this cancer thing, screw that shit. Human beings don't die of illness anymore. This aging thing, fuck that. Here's another 1,000 years to learn, explore, and probe the galaxy. The speed at which we can sequence our genes today is going 3 times faster than these exponential growth curves that they love talking about in Silicon Valley. In other words, the 40 years that it took to take a supercomputer to shrink down from half a building to a phone in your pocket, right? That exponential growth curve is happening in biotech. Gene sequencing is going 3 times faster than Moore's Law. This is the kind of progress. This feels like an inevitability. It feels like creativity and technology in a symbiotic way have a directionality. There seems to be a teleological move towards greater complexity and organization. Kevin Kelly from Wired Magazine calls technology the technium. He calls it the 7th kingdom of life. He says it's alive. He says it has wants and it has needs, and it's pulling towards greater forms of novelty, engendering more possibilities, more creativity, more imagination, increasing our options. Eric Davis says, when everything becomes linked with everything else, matter becomes mind. We're seeing the rise of artificial intelligence, non-biological minds in marriage with us, increasing intelligence beyond its biological limitations. So now we are a hybrid. Now we are a cyborg of biological and non-biological intelligence. In fact, there's a whole school of cognitive philosophers, namely David Chalmers and Andy Clark, that say that we have a skin-back bias in assuming that we are nature and technology is not. That in fact, technology is a second skin. Technology is our scaffolding, and that the mind, that intelligence exists instead in the feedback loops between brains, tools, and environment. So we are already part something else. Part biology and part something else. Again, we start with the human condition. We start with the fire in the belly. We start with existential dread. We start with what the fuck do we do with ourselves, right? First we pray. Then we worship our lovers. Finally, we get really creative. And we surprise ourselves in realizing we contain wonders, that we are capable of achieving the impossible. Stephen Johnson, in his book, Where Good Ideas Come From, A Natural History of Innovation, talks about the adjacent possible. The adjacent possible is a shadow from the future that hovers over the present and provides a map of all the ways in which the present can reinvent itself. How do we tap into that adjacent possible? A lot to think about. So I want to show you a video to set up our initial condition as we walk through some of my work and some of the ways in which I've dealt with this situation. Please show the first video.
All is temporary. Even our greatest ecstasies are tinged by a bit of darkness. This moment will pass. This moment will end. I may have lost her. I may have lost this moment. But now I have this piece of content that I can always go back to remind me of the intensity of that. I will not just forget this. I will not forget you. For me, a life well lived is a life that is not about victories or losses, but about a continuous process of growth, a continuous process of adventure, curiosity, and awe. One in which you don't go quietly into that good night at the end of the race, but instead you rage and rage and rage against the dying of the light. As Ellen Harrington said, we must never forget we are cosmic revolutionaries, not stooges conscripted to advance a natural order that kills everyone. Having invented the gods, we can turn into them.
Welcome back to Center of Light. Tonight we are speaking about everything that is fucking magical. Speaking about you. Tonight is Center of Light. Dimension. What is the actual word I was looking for? What I named it, I did mention it earlier. Center of Light, breath, dimensions. Breath is in dimensions, breath with height, depth, but also as in breath that shifts us into dimensions. I do want to say hello to my brother Robert. He says, well, he's responding to what I said about Jason Silva. And I said, wow, this boy is crazy good. I love Jason. He lives in the fire in the belly. He knows how to fall. And I said, this just pours out of him. There is no script he is following. This just wows me. And Robert says that is because he lives his truth. We're all living our truth, aren't we? What we hold as religion, beautiful, terrible, it's our truth. But what Robert is really saying is not only is he living his truth, his personal truth, he's living in the collective divine truth that spreads across the board for happiness, which is the ultimate way, because there's no way to happiness. Happiness is the way that speaks to every one of us all day long, every day. He lives in the fire. Many of us live in the fire. Thank you, Robert, for that beautiful analogy. So tonight is Center of Light, the sweet spot, breath, B-R-E-A-D-T-H, B-R-E-A-D, bread, the bread of life. Christ broke bread. Breath, B-R-E-A-D-T-H, as in a dimension of height, width, depth, and so forth and so on. Also as in breath. There is no escape from this conundrum. Lesson, teaching. You can run. It will catch up to you because you can't make undone with what I shared with you. You just can't. I cast a spell on you. That's what I did. Hoodoo, voodoo, grow, yo, sis bro. From Homecoming. No, we're going to get to that shortly. I'm getting ahead of myself. Being a wordsmith, as you know that I do most often if you frequent my presentations, you know that being a wordsmith, I love the English language. And the greatest spiritual scriptural book is the dictionary. It is the understanding of all. And it's updated probably every day. It's the understanding of all from when understanding or having a level of consciousness about yourself, ourselves, whoever we or they were back in the caveman days. Everything's updated. There was breath. People breathing to stay alive, using breath as in width and height to create multi-dimensionalities. What a strange word. Multi-dimensionalities of realities. So we have breath. Now we're going to get into the dimensions of space, as in creating breath with height, depth kind of thing. And then we're going to get into the breath, which creates spiritual dimensions following. So the definition of breath, B-R-E-A-D-T-H, not as in breath as in breathing, but breath as in a dimension of three-dimensional space. The distance or measurement from side to side of something. Width. The boat measured 27 feet in breadth. Similar with broadness, wideness, thickness, span, spread, diameter, beam. I love that one. Where is it? I don't have it. I was going to flash my light for beam. So anyway, broadness, width, wideness, thickness, span, spread, diameter, beam, wide range or extent. Similar range, extent, scope, width, depth, amplitude. I thought it said amplitude. Amplitude, extensiveness, comprehensiveness, all-inclusiveness, spread, sweep, reach, compass, magnitude, scale, degree. Opposite, narrowness, limitedness. Width, definition of width. The measurement or extent of something from side to side. This is very, it has a relationship with breadth. But of course, some of the definitions or the similars are going to shift because there's always a little more refinement per word. Width, the measurement or extent of something from side to side. The yard was about 7 feet in width. Similar, wideness, breadth, back to the original, broadness, thickness, spread, span, diameter, girth, which is a word I used earlier, diameter, caliber, gauge, beam. I wish I had my beam. Opposite, length. A piece of something at its full extent from side to side. A single width of hardboard. The sideways extent of a swimming pool as a measure, which you are loved beyond, of the distance swum. I didn't know that was a word. Swam. The quality of covering or accepting a broad range of things. Scope. The width of experience required for these positions. Similar, range, breadth, compass, scope, span, scale, sweep, extent. Now we're moving into height. The measurement from base to top or of a standing person. Hello, sexy human being. From head to foot. The most intense part or period of something. Similar, high point. We are reaching the crest, the apex of the mountain. Highest point, crowning moment, culminating point. This is what this has been all about since the birth of man. This culminating point. It's the peak. The next word, dimension. A measurable extent of some kind, such as length, breadth, depth, or height. The final dimensions of the pond, similar proportions, measurements, extent, size, length, width, breadth, depth, area, volume, capacity, footage, acreage, an aspect or feature of a situation, problem or thing. Sun-dried tomatoes added a new dimension to the sauce. Similar aspect, feature, element, facet, side. Words are infinitely powerful. Tonight is center of light, breath. Breath is in a dimension of measurement, but also breath spiritually. Wow. What helps us to get out of measurement and back to zero, which is the sweet spot. It's nothing. It's not even what you think it is. More so, it's not even what you think nothing is. You can't explain it, so don't try. Hello, Aziza. Nothing doesn't mean, well, let me describe what nothing is, because that's something. I'm describing something to people about nothing. That's not what nothing is. That is God. It's quiet in the core. It's all clear. That's for sure. Quiet. It's the sweet spot. So when you find yourself in anything in your life, out of the lot that happens to you, when you find the sweet spot, what I suggest that you do is breathe or take a breath. And in so doing, it will widen your breath, your breathth. It will widen your dimensional reality and experience of things. It will deepen it as well. And you will heighten yourself as you erect and ascend ever higher. So when something wonderful happens to you and you want to create breath, breathth, which means width and girth and quality, what you can do is engage your breath by such. Sounds like you're panting and you're anxious. That's not what it is at all. You're in a different heart space than the mind space of being anxious, breathing out of panting because you're scared to death. You're using breath on purpose. And it will shift you. It will widen the gate to eternity. Something amazing just happened. It doesn't matter the breath pace, the tooth pace, from the sweet spot that you might get cavities, a cave or a cavern, fall into the cavern. It's not necessarily truly, it is to some degree, equally, the breath, but it's about why you are breathing so intentfully. What is your goal for the outcome that requires the income, your divine escrow bank account? You can bank on that. What is your income input to be able to deliver such output? It's breath, which creates breadth, width, height, depth, dimension. Shifting space, as I mentioned, is not hard. You can go to the bathroom right now and you've shifted space in your house. And when you go to the bathroom, the space within you shifts as well. Shift happens because you're no longer in the same experience you were before you got off of your derriera and went in there. We're always shifting. So when you come upon an experience or experience is being had, while it's being had, breathe into it. Create breath. Use your breath to create breath. Use your breath to create breath. And it will linger. It will keep the gate open. And when the said experience may be done physically, don't run. It's still there. Keep the gate open by being conscious of your breath and what has transpired for you. And you will find all kind of width and all kind of height and all kind of depth and all kind of quality. We all want equality, so have these. You deserve them in equal portions. Breath, width, height, depth, breath. I'm grateful. Versus, I'm so scared. Everybody has their path. I understand. I'm not poking fun. but I am making light. Live in the light. Enjoy your breath. Gonna be right back. Get some reading to do from Homecoming Crossing the Bridge to the Soul to move us further into this multifaceted, multidimensional presentation about dimensions in the form of dimensional space, but also in the form of breathing, life-giving breath, Soham, to put us in alternate universes, alternate spaces, and combine them all together. Homecoming Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Going to be right back. Song break. See you shortly. How about some where'd they go? Something from my soon-to-be, it might be 20 years, new album. What do you want now? It's all unproduced, but it's raw. Enjoy. I can't seem to figure things out. Maybe everything I claim to know is absolute bullshit. Where else can I go but inward? Nothing in the outside has ever brought me some sort of peace. I once heard from a friend about something called samadhi. If I remember correctly, he told me it's being in a space of stillness, an inner quiet, silence on all levels, sort of like being in a cave in meditation, waiting simply, however long it takes, for God to awaken you and bring you to the realm of all possibilities.
Now tell me, did you ever think you can have what you want? 'Cause it sure is happening to me. Everything that I tell you, best believe it is true. And you too will soon see. Come on now, what do you want? Come on now, what do you want now? What do you want? What do you want now? Now tell me, will you look within to know who you are? Either way, that choice is yours. But when you take the time just to be with yourself, that's when you will make the score. What do you want? Come on now. What do you want now? What do you want? What do you want now?
Welcome back to Center of Light, you sexy human creatures. From homecoming crossing the bridge to the soul. Tonight we are speaking about, for those who are interested in purchasing my most recent bestseller, the top of this forum, I'm absolutely sure you'll be able to find this book. If you can, the link to this book, which is Amazon. If you cannot, just send me an inbox. Check it out. 30 years of my life, joyful life. Not always so joyful life. Compressed. Second volume, hopefully in the very near future, will be coming out as well. Do it. The sweet spot. What is the sweet spot? It's your G spot. Guy or girl, no matter what world that you swirl around in, it's your G spot. It's your erogenous zone. It's when you get touched, when you're in that place, woohoo! On any level, magic happens. That's the sweet spot. So what happens when you actually in sexual intercourse? When you're in the sweet spot, you think nobody's breathing? In fact, they're gulping up oxygen, right? Likewise, perfect analogy, the sweet spot. When you're in the sweet spot, why not use the same principle, technique in a sensual encounter the same way? When you find yourself erotic in such a way about your life, about an experience, about something that you're doing, gardening, musician, drawing, whatever it is you do. Breathe. Get into there. Get into the erogenous zone. Make it real. It's the sweet spot. And so breathing creates breath, which creates breath as in a dimension, breath with height, depth. From homecoming crossing the bridge to the soul. Here we go. My dialogue with spirit all those years ago. On the earth plane, almost everyone perceives him or herself as an individualized unit separate from others. Such spiritual deficiency promotes spiritual dyslexia, a view of reality as outer to inner, rather than inner to outer. This perception is in error because at the subatomic level, there is no separation whatsoever. Everything is just energy fluxing at God's speed, briefly bumping around, then taking off to somewhere else. Spirit continues, believe it or not, the human body is 99.9999% empty space. The other 0.00001% matter is empty space as well. Matter consists of random blips of energy and informational discharges, informational multidimensional discharges that solidify into, at least for now, which we're moving to fifth dimension, matter consists of random blips of energy and informational discharges that solidify into a three-dimensional hologram. This was 1997, thus creating the illusion of solidity. I know that grasping this concept, Keith, has been challenging for you in the past, but you are finally beginning to see how everyone is of one body, God is omnipresent, that branches into many seemingly separate bodies upon the physical plane. And I say, yes, I think I am. And Spirit continues. The more you can see this truth, the more your tendency to judge anything will diminish, because you will understand that everything is you. That is the sweet spot. Using your breathing breath to stay in the moment that you stretch by your intent to do so. The more you can see this truth, which is you are the spirit, the observer. The more you can see this truth, the more your tendency to judge anything will diminish, because you will understand that everything is you. No matter how bad a situation gets, self-preservation is your right universally. Stay present. When you cast judgment, not only do you bring about division from others, you deepen the conscious breach between yourself and the one cosmic body, which is the breadth, the width, the height, and the depth. When you judge, love begins to decay and fear begins to expand. Now, even though it describes separation as a truth in and of itself, in truth, it is not real. Nothing can ever leave my sight. That is the real truth. Breadth, width, depth, height. That is the real truth. I live in such wholeness that I hold together the things you may see as separate. I'll get through. Here we go. A little more. It's all purposeful. Here's an exercise. Look at your hand. Look at your hand, everybody. Everybody, class, look at your hand. Look at your hand. Just look at it. No judgment. Just look. See what it looks like. Do you see a hand with separate fingers? And I say yes. Because of those empty spaces you see between them, you think that one finger has no connection to the others. This is but a perception of separation caused by your lack of focus on the entire hand, which, after all, is where the fingers extend from in the first place. Your hand represents the place where all things connect and originate, God. This simple lesson should lift your awareness beyond any deception. Keith, do you understand it? And out of being a little smartass, I say, I've really got to hand it to you. You've explained it so well that I get it. And Spirit says, now let us look at the connection you have with the earth and all life upon it. Again, I ask you to reflect on your body and see it as one living organism housing billions of cells, skin cells, liver cells, brain cells, blood cells, and so on. All of them encapsulated in one wrapping of flesh. This holds as truth for the earth as well, where there are billions of individual cells called people who differ from one another in personality, appearance, sex, and race. Humans are embraced by a much larger organism, Earth. Humans are to Earth as cells are to humans. From micro to macro, the universal design is the same. Atomic, cellular, body, world, solar, galactic, stellar, universal. All systems spin around one central source. Atoms and cells have elements spinning around one central source called the nucleus. And you and Earth spin around one central source called the sun. The solar system revolves around the Milky Way galaxy with that huge cluster of stars at its center. Galaxies rotate around the cosmos, and the universe revolves around God. Dear Lord, the great central sun. I know you have all heard the expression, he thinks the world revolves around him. Well, this is the truth of it. Everything revolves around me, for it is I who spins all into life. And I say, it sounds pretty simple. I mean, as far as you've laid things out. Yes, it is so simple that without forcing anything, truth brings about the natural flow of life and light that allows the divine to be omnipresent. That is the sweet spot that when we use any habit, any ritual, any incantation, any voodoo, any hoodoo, any prayer, any meditation, whatever is your where-do and whatever it is that you do that puts you in the sweet spot, gives us glimpses of eternity, the omnipresence, the omniscience, the omnipotence of God, to the level that we are able to digest it properly so it does not throw our energy off kilter. It's about the divine filter. It sounds pretty simple. I mean, as far as you've laid things out. Yes, Keith, it is so simple that without forcing anything, truth brings about the natural flow of life and light that allows the divine to be omnipresent. This is just the way it is. I do not even judge it. It is what it is. And I ask, do you think I will ever get there in this lifetime? That is entirely up to you, Keith, and everyone else. Know that even now you have what it takes to grasp the complexity of the universe and to anchor the divine principle. If you accept living in love as your abiding criterion, with this new awareness of your relationship to Earth, other human beings, and God, you now have the ability to understand all. This was 1997. You have the ability to understand all that is taking place in this era that you're living in. Everything's so small. I share with you this truth of your connectedness to bring you stability and to provide you with a deeper breath with height comprehension of the way things will play out in these transitional times. It's about breathing and understanding what space is. Dimensionally, as far as breadth, width, height, depth, and all those phenomenal qualities of being a multi-dimensional human being. But the other side of this presentation was to enrich, good word, support, encourage multi-dimensional human seeing by using analogously breadth, width, height, and depth. And to the level we get in depth, adept breathing consciously. So, hum. The in-breath of God is so, the out-breath is hum. Breathe, expand. You have a beautiful moment happen to you in your life, and it's at hand. You've been handed something by God, this beautiful moment. Even the things that may not seem so beautiful is beautiful. But let's put that aside. Just those beautiful moments. Breathe like a madman, mad woman. It's not always about intensity, but intensity does help. So in other words, something is going down and I'm grateful. The hand on the heart is really important as well. It keeps you connected. I am intending to connect to baby Jesus. I'm intending to connect to whatever is most beautiful in your own right way of doing things. That's what my hand means. But it will open the gate. You are handing yourself healing. Healing is always about hands. Jesus laid healing hands. It's about the hands. The ability to grasp and to send, to take and give. Put your hand on your heart. It'll keep you connected. It'll keep you ever so present. Try it. Next time you talk to someone that you're nervous to talk to, just do this. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. Just do this. You can act like you're scratching an itch if that's what you need to do. It'll keep you connected. Breath creates dimension, space, spiritual space. Live in your spiritual space. It's a graceful ambiance. God is everywhere. It's you. We're all are due for a new awakening. And a new awakening is being had, good or bad, joy or sad. It's here to say, I will give you exactly what you want. Your sweet spot. Some people enjoy the sweet spot of misery. Don't be such one. It's history. Your love beyond measure. I will see you soon. God bless you. No, let me rephrase that. You are it. You have been blessed. There is nothing else. You beautiful mess. Peace, love, and you are sexy.